Hi, welcome to Virtually Sunday. My name is Tony Pickler. This is a production of Whatsoever You Do Incorporated in Green Bay, Wisconsin. As I look forward to this weekend's readings, I'm reminded of a story, an incident that happened to me almost 40 years ago or so. I was newly graduated from St. John's University. I had accepted my first parish position in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and I was working for a pastor named Father Neil. And one day, Father Neil was showing me around the neighborhood, around the parish. We were taking a walk. It was a beautiful day. And neighbors in the parish were coming out and greeting Father Neil. And I remember after one woman came down the steps and said hi to Father Neil and then returned to her house, Father Neil turned to me and he said, "I know my sheep and my sheep know me." I just found that statement to be, though I don't know that he meant it this way, I felt it to be just slightly arrogant. When I think about this Sunday's readings, I think about that same incident, that little tinge of arrogance and the way that he was tending to his sheep. St. Peter in the Acts of the Apostles this Sunday, it stands up in front of the crowd and was trying to convert them to Christianity. And he says to the people, or the Acts of the Apostles says, "Then Peter stood up with the 11, raised his voice and proclaimed, 'Let the whole house of Israel know for certain that God has made both Lord and Christ this Jesus whom you crucified.'" I just feel like this sounds maybe a little confident and maybe just hinging on a little arrogance, as St. Peter was certainly on fire with the Lord. However, maybe just a little bit over the top in terms of his confidence and arrogance. And then we move to the gospel. It's gospel according to St. John. And in that gospel, we have that kind of a famous story of the sheep and the sheepfold and the gate, and Jesus calling himself the gate. And so St. John writes, "Whoever does not enter a sheepfold through the gate, but climbs over elsewhere is a thief and a robber. But whoever enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens it for him, and the sheep hear his voice. As the shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out, when he has driven out all his own, he walks ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they recognize his voice. But they will not follow a stranger. They will run away from him because they do not recognize the voice of strangers." Over the years, I feel like this reading has been used with a little bit of arrogance as well. Sometimes it seems that only believers that enter through the gate of Christianity, where followers of Jesus, will go to heaven. At least some people have seemed to imply that or overtly said those kinds of words. Then I think about, what about all the other world religions? What about Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and Judaism and many other world religions that lead to God, lead to the holy, lead to the spiritual, lead to the sacred? Are we arrogant enough to believe that a person who follows those world religions are not living a good life and able to attain eternal life? The key is in the last line of our reading this weekend. I came so that you might have life and have it abundantly. Are we finding an abundant way of life, no matter what our beliefs, no matter what our practices, no matter what our way of living in terms of faith? This is where the tire hits the road. Does our belief and practice lead us to love? If we believe that God is love, and I really do believe we should be believing that, then this will be the case. If our belief and practices are leading us to judgment and division, then it's not from God, no matter what religion you call it. Are we leading towards love and leading with love, or are we leading with judgment and division? Ultimately, we are called to follow what Pope Francis was teaching us just a few years ago. He said, we are called to smell like sheep. In other words, we're called to roll up our sleeves, to love, to serve, to wash feet. Life is messy, just like sheep, and leaders really all of us, are called to tend sheep, to love everyone we encounter, not with arrogance, but with love. Have a great week, everyone.